Hello, happy 70th birthday Disneyland, and welcome to episode 233 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Of course, I am your host, Rick Doherty. On the show today, I'll be joined by my good friend and co-host, Sarah Says. The two of us will be celebrating 70 years of Walt's original park by talking about the disastrous opening day and then turning our focus to the different ways Disneyland is celebrating the anniversary in the parks this year. Let's get things started right now. Thanks for being here, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So we're going to talk about everything that's going on with the 70th anniversary of Disneyland. We'll talk about that a little later, and we definitely have some strong feelings. That's the key word here. But I wanted to start it off by talking about that opening day, July 17th of 1955. Originally, it was listed as just a preview day. Walt and Roy considered it just the preview day and considered the 18th to be the day that Disneyland really opened to the public. But I think there is a moral to this story.
Oh?
Because whatever you're trying, whether it's school, sports, a musical instrument, you're starting a podcast, whatever you're doing, you're going to start. There's going to be that moment where you take the basketball out on the court and you bounce it the first time. And there's going to be that moment that you first hit record for the podcast. Or there's going to be that moment where you first open the book to learn a new language. And it's not always going to come easy. And sometimes that first time is going to be just hideous. Yeah. And you know what? The first day they opened Disneyland, it was a disaster. They called it Black Sunday because of how much went wrong. And I think that there is a lesson that we can all take from this. If Disneyland had a bad first day, then you can do anything.
You know, that's fair. Sometimes you have to get your high heel shoes stuck in the cement as you walk down Main Street.
So Disneyland was dedicated at a quote, international press preview event held on Sunday, July 17th, 1955. It was only supposed to be selected invited guests and media, but people bought counterfeit tickets. Disney, to their credit, recognized them, accepted these counterfeit tickets. People also jumped the fence, which is just bizarre to me thinking about that now.
You know, I have to tell you something real quick. My uncle in the 70s, him and his buddies would jump the fence and sneak into Disneyland. They lived not too far away. And he told me that a while back when I was there visiting. And he was like, I have to tell you something. And I was like, what? But it's true. You would think, like, hop the fence? What?
I'm just thinking about the next time I'm at Disney with Sarah and we're going to put those fingerprints in the thing and we're going to get pulled aside. Sarah?
I have lots of uncles. They won't figure out which one it is.
Yeah, I gotta talk to you about your uncle here. 28,000 people attended the event. Only about half of them were invited. This included a lot of the celebrities, but like you mentioned, one of the big problems with the opening date at Disneyland was the temperature. It was 101 degrees in Anaheim that day, and they had just laid down some of the roadways, some of the streets, Main Street USA. They just laid that down earlier in the day. So women's high heels were getting stuck because it hadn't dried yet.
Right. It was just too hot. It's crazy.
And there was a local plumbers strike. So Walt Disney had to make a decision. Do we have drinking fountains or working bathrooms.
That should be a no-brainer right there.
So he went with working bathrooms.
Smart man.
Hey, he's not the boss for nothing, right?
Yeah, right.
But this got people really, really upset because Pepsi was one of the sponsors of the park's opening, which is bizarre because
I don't ever think of them being like in the 50s.
well, and Disneyland and
Yeah.
Coca-Cola just seem so synonymous to
Right.
me.
Exactly.
But Pepsi was the sponsor of the park's opening, and guests believed that the water fountains not working was a trick to get people to buy more Pepsi. And when we talk about some of the events for the 70th, you would think maybe that wasn't their idea, but they'd have that idea now.
Right. I know. I was just thinking, I'm like, hmm.
Traffic was delayed on Harbor Boulevard. So a lot of the famous people who were supposed to be showing up every 2 hours, they were supposed to be arriving at certain times. They all
Okay.
showed up at once.
That's funny.
And they had all of these issues. Parents were throwing their kids over the crowd's shoulders to try to get them on rides like King Arthur's Carousel. When people say, and you'll hear this a lot, oh, people nowadays have no decorum. You wouldn't believe the way people act in the theme parks now. This world has gone to heck in a handbasket. Well, you know what? They were doing it back in 1955 as well. People have just always kind of been a little bit garbage.
That is totally fair. Totally fair. They just did it dressed a lot more fancy back then.
So, a couple of the major snafus with the celebrities. So, three of the celebrities who were there were Art Linkletter, Bob Cummings, and Ronald Reagan.
Okay.
And Ronald Reagan was a broadcaster at the time, of course. He was an actor, but he was kind of in his GE phase by that point, where he was kind of like a professional spokesman.
Okay.
More like how Ryan Reynolds doesn't do movies anymore, really. He just does Mint Mobile commercials.
Right.
So he was kind of hosting it. He didn't have any of the big snafus. But at one point, the camera caught Bob Cummings kissing one of the dancers.
Oh my gosh.
There was a point where Cummings was getting the signal from Linkletter, like Linkletter threw it to Cummings, and he wasn't ready, so he threw it back to Linkletter, who by that point had put down his microphone. So Cummings did a play-by-play of him trying to find his microphone in front of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Wow.
Then Walt Disney started reading the plaque for Tomorrowland, thinking he was on air, and he had to be stopped by a technician and had to restart it. And apparently Walt goes, I thought I got a signal. Could you imagine being the technician?
Oh my gosh.
Who had to tell Walt Disney, you got to start over again, sir.
Oh my
Sorry.
gosh. I'd be like, I just quit right now. I'd hand them my headphones and off I'd go through the wet street.
And you see all this video of Walt, and he's like playing it cool, like he's Mr. PR, he's Uncle Walt, But when he got home.
Oh man, I can't. I can't even imagine.
Because if there's two things that Walt Disney liked to do, it was smoke and it was drink. And I just imagine him getting home after this disaster of a day and pouring himself the biggest scotch and just down in lung darts one after another.
That's fair. That's fair. From everything I've heard in the last 2 minutes, I would too.
But here's the deal. We've all been at those type of events. We've all had the thing where, whether it's the school play or
Yep.
whatever, and the first day is a disaster, and you think, oh, this is going to be awful. And then you've also had times, I'm going to give it an experience from my life. You have the opposite thing where everything goes right
Mhm.
and you think that you've done everything, but a launch is only a launch. And back when I worked in radio, we launched a new radio station. We took a country station that was gigantic and incredibly popular, and they flipped it to a pop station.
Oh,
So for a week in a row, they played nonstop Pop Goes the Weasel on this radio station to generate. And I was in college at the time. Like, people in college were talking about, like, I knew what was going
yeah.
on, but like it was brought up in our classes.
Wow.
Like, our economics classes were like, why do you think this radio station is doing this? And it was huge. The second it launched, it was like the biggest deal. And I
Wow.
think within a year and a half, the station flipped formats again.
Oh,
So just because you have a bad first day does not mean that
fair.
it is going to be a disaster. So let's talk about all of the things that are coming up for the 70th anniversary. And we're going to start with the one that we're going to spend the most time talking about, I think, because we are hopping mad.
Oh, I can't even.
The key to Disneyland experience. Purchase your key to Disneyland at select shops in Disneyland Park or at World of Disney in the downtown Disney district. And your key comes with a pin, correct?
Correct. From reading about it and looking up stuff about it, I'm assuming that it unlocks it, and I don't know if the pin is inside it or like how exactly that works. It's like a blind assortment toy, but it's huge. It's because what I'm getting from it is it includes a commemorative trading pin. So in my brain, I'm like, okay, so you go around, you do all the locks, and then it gives you a way to open it, and your pin is in there. That's what I'm gathering from this.
It says unlock magic in all 9 lands in Disneyland Park. Upon completion, find the Mickey Topiary Finale Lock Station by the entrance to Disneyland Park, where your key will unlock more surprises, including, and here's the kicker, 1 of 9 commemorative trading pins.
So yeah, so either the pin's in it or it does something on that one that gives you a thing of like, this is the pin that your key has. But this thing is $59.99 for one key. So if you want all 9 pins, you better hope that you buy 9 keys for $60 a pop and they each have a different one. Because if it's like any other blind assortment that I know of, you could get 9 of the same pin. That's a lot of money for wow. And you can't buy just the pin. That's like their whole shtick is you have to get the key.
And here's another thing. These keys are huge and gaudy, and I don't know if this is just me finally having moved away from theme parks and not being in, that world where they're just surrounding you all of the time. But the first time I saw this, I was like, that is gaudy. And you're talking to somebody who has a Figment and Mr. Toad popcorn bucket right behind him on his bookcase right now. So I have a high threshold for gaudy and tacky. And this is gaudy and tacky.
It just, as an adult, I mean, more power to you if you love this. And this is like, that's great. Like, you do you. Totally. It's just not, for me. But, my 9-year-old would want that thing. He would care less about the pin. He just would want to unlock all the locks, get all the sounds from the locks, and then drive me absolutely bonkers for the rest of my life with that thing.
And that's fine. I think if you just want to go to the 9 spots and have the key
Yeah,
that
have
does the
fun
thing,
and do it. Yeah. But to
that
get
seems
9
great.
pins?
But if you're trying to collect all of the 9 pins, and like they said, you have to go to all 9 lands in Disneyland Park.
Yes.
And one of the areas is across from Star Wars Rise of the Resistance in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So, how quickly we've gone from we can't even call the bathrooms. We have to call them
Right.
refreshers in
Right.
Galaxy's Edge to the point
Yeah.
that people are walking around unlocking things with big Disneyland plastic keys.
Right. Exactly. It's, yeah. And I just, yeah, I just am just flabbergasted by, and I mean, $60. I just can't get over the fact that it's $60 for this thing when you could sell the pin for like $25. You could sell each pin for like $25 and people would buy it, or even more than that, $30. And people would buy them. And the thing is though, I mean, the one plus side to this with the key is if you're not there, like you can't get it all done in one day, it does save your place. So you can do it and the key will remember where you are. So if you have a multi-day vacation, you don't have to go and like run. But could you imagine being there in one day and you'd spend your whole day standing in line to use the key?
Listen, I don't know exactly because 9 is a lot. So I don't know exactly how much it should be, but there should be a way that if there's 9 pins, you can get all 9 of them without having to spend
Yeah.
upwards of $1,000.
Right. It's just like, it's going to cost as much as my vacation for enough keys to get all the pins. Like, it's just, I'm just going to pay for 2 vacations at once. That's yep, just take my money. Cash poor for the rest of my life.
And now we're going to move on to some of the positives because there are some, right?
Yes.
We're not going to be negative Nellies just because you now live on the East Coast and you're going to pretend, oh, I'm too cool for Disneyland now.
You know, it's Disneyland will always be my number one, my numero uno.
So the Paint the Night Parade, we're getting a nighttime parade in Disneyland Park.
It started in Hong Kong. That's why I was like, I know I've heard of it, but it was a Hong Kong parade that moved to Disneyland for the 60th anniversary, the Diamond Celebration. So they've had it before. They're just bringing it back.
Okay, what really struck me, and I guess why I was sort of a little bit confused there, was because it looks like there's a big focus on cars.
I think that's just the picture that they chose on the website, but everything is really illuminated, more LED, neon, things like that, versus the cute little Main Street Electrical Parade.
No, I got what you're saying now. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and because of the color scheme and kind of the decorations that they've really chosen for the 70th, I think it really ties it in really well.
yeah, I just think a nighttime parade, especially one that, I mean, listen, I love the Main Street Electrical Parade.
Yeah.
And if they ever want to do that at Disneyland or Walt Disney World, I'm down for it. But
oh, totally.
This nighttime parade definitely does look like it's going to be pretty impressive and an important thing to do to celebrate the 70th.
Yeah.
Then Wondrous Journeys, the nighttime show. So behold a spirited show that honors the legacy of Disney animated classics with fireworks on select nights. Obviously, we all know about the wind issues in Anaheim. If it's too windy, they're not going to do the fireworks, but at least it feels like this spark of inspiration show is going to be able to run on those nights. It's just, it will only be projections.
Which is nice that they have that, because I mean, growing up as a kid going there, if it was a fireworks and the Santa Ana winds were blowing, you didn't get fireworks at all. Where here it's like, hey, at least we can do the projection part of it, which is still very cool.
And here's a little bit of a nitpick from me, I guess. It says over 100 years in the making. For more than a century, Walt Disney Animated Studios, blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, experience moments from beloved stories like Hercules, The Princess and the Frog, Peter Pan, Frozen, Big Hero 6, Moana, Encanto, and more. That's the same intellectual properties
Yeah.
that they put
They
in
don't branch out
everything.
very much. Yeah. Yeah,
It's not
exactly. But I
really
mean,
100 years in the making, is all I'm saying.
yeah, it's true. It's true. They're going to stick with their tried and true.
Then the Tapestry of Happiness projection show, which is going to happen over at It's a Small World. Anytime they incorporate the facade of It's a Small World, I think that's a win, and I'm down
Oh,
for
totally.
it.
To have that thing, like, I love their holiday overlay. And I just love because Disneyland has such a unique facade to their small world. You got to use it. It's so cool.
Then the Celebrate Happy Cavalcade join Mickey Mouse and his pals as they get the party started in festive new outfits. You may even spot, are you ready? Duffy and Shelly May, as if anybody
Wow.
in the US cares.
There are some stands. There's got to be some stands somewhere, but I am just living for all the new costumes and the outfits that all the characters are wearing. Minnie Mouse's outfit, I want that in like human size, not mouse size. It's so cute.
Their outfits really are cute, and I do think that Duffy and Shelly May are in this to bring the Asian crowd because they are so popular in the Asian parks.
Oh my gosh, it's bonkers. Like, I did not realize, like, I'd seen Duffy before, but until someone that I follow on social media went and was posting all the stuff, and it's just like, I had no idea how big Duffy was in Asia. I was just
And the big fight that people have is Disneyland a vacation park? Is it a locals park? It is more of a locals park than Walt Disney World, but it's obviously a vacation destination.
well, yeah, it's the original. Everybody has to visit it at least once if you can afford it. Little asterisk there.
Right, it's like Mecca. Like, you're supposed to make a pilgrimage there if you're Muslim, but only if you can afford it, right?
But only if you can afford it.
I think that having Duffy and Shelly May be a bigger part of the 70th is a way of trying to use this opportunity to get some of the people who got into Disney through the Asian parks and try to see if they can draw them over and have them come to the US parks. Because let's be honest, I mean, I'm just going to tell the truth. 80% of tourists who come from Japan to the United States, 80%, no matter where they're going, they stop in Los Angeles and they go to a Dodgers game to see Shohei Ohtani.
That's fair. It's like how they used to come up to Seattle to see Ichiro.
80% of tourists from Japan stop in Los Angeles. If you can get them to the day after they see Shohei play for the Dodgers to drive down I-5 and go see Disneyland, that's a big get. So I think this is a really, really good idea to try to start pulling in people from the international parks and start using them as a way to bring people to the US parks.
Totally.
New additions to It's a Small World. Miguel and Dante from Coco are showing up in Mexico. You know, originally when they added characters to It's a Small World over in Disneyland, there was a lot of controversy to it. And now I think the only way they're going to be able to save the version in Walt Disney World is if they end up doing it over there. I think this is something that was controversial at the beginning, but
Right.
now I think it's almost necessary.
Yeah. And if we don't get the version that has all the little Groots, I'm gonna riot because I have seen the like people's ride-throughs. I'm like, I need this in my life. It is so cute.
World of Color Happiness, the nighttime show over at Disney's California Adventure. Be wowed by a new show inspired by Walt Disney's words. To all who come to this happy place, welcome. This looks like it is going to be some of the usual suspects. You know, we're talking about Lion King, Frozen, Little Mermaid, but it looks like a little more Inside Out. I see some Turning Red.
Yeah, you got Powerline in there from Goofy movie.
Yeah, I see Wish
Got Wish.
represented.
Looks like Rapunzel's back there. Yeah, I think I want to see it just for like the Turning Red. Like I want to see all Turning Red representation in the park. I love that
Turning
movie.
Red is a movie that really should have done better. It just, the timing
Yeah,
of when it was released just really
it's
hurt
true.
it.
Our whole family loves it. Like to this day, my son will sit down. He's like, I want to watch the Red Panda movie. I'm like, Turning Red. He goes, yeah. And so we'll sit and we will watch it start to finish. We love it.
Better Together, a Pixar Pals celebration parade. Um, you know, a parade at
Yeah,
DCA, cool. I'm down.
yeah. Pixar, it fits. Pixar Pier. You know, it's their shtick.
Celebrate happy at Carthay Circle Theater. Take in celebratory sights and sounds with music and shimmering lights on and around the theater's facade. So, this is going to be another projection show. And cool, right? Like,
Well, the thing with it too, though, is what I've read is the cool part of it. You have to be a magic key holder. They have a special experience for magic key holders there that you get free stuff and you get to do all this stuff. But for the plebes like me, you you just get that little part that they're showing. There's a lot of little pass holder or key holder things that I've noticed that I'm like, I want to do that, but I don't have the money for that. And I can't pay monthly because I don't live in California.
and I think another thing about these types of shows, the projection shows like on the Carthay Circle Theater, is anything that spreads people out throughout the park is a good thing. So if it gives people a reason to hang out at that little intersection there instead of waiting in line for Radiator Springs Racers or for the Incredicoaster, if it helps to spread out the park,
Yes.
because people who go all the time will want to check out these extra things. So I do
Right.
think that is important. New additions to Toy Story Midway Mania. That's awesome. Then there is a 70th anniversary guided tour at Disneyland
Cool.
Resort. A
I love the
story
tours at Disneyland.
of celebration. And I would obviously lose my mind with the chance to do this. It is a 2-hour guided tour. You'll journey through the festive past, experience some original attractions, enjoy Lightning Lane entry for a select attraction, get access to a reserved viewing area for Paint the Night, that's big, munch on some
Mhm.
popcorn, and receive a special tour keepsake. It's $120 per person.
I feel like that's pretty, like, that's not bad.
I
Like,
think
for
that's
all
really
that stuff you
reasonable.
get, it's real. I feel like we didn't pay much less than that when the last tour that we did with like the private tour and we got to do a bunch of cool stuff. I mean, we didn't get to ride a ride, but I actually think that's pretty reasonable and I would totally do that.
And then, of course, there's some things like dining packages that are associated with World of Color and the Better Together parade. Paint the Night dining packages, Wondrous Journeys dining packages, but there is also something that was added, another dining experience at Storyteller's Cafe. Indulge in a campfire style barbecue buffet, meeting some of your favorite Disney pals. It's called Donald's Tales of Adventure Dinner Buffet. And we got Donald sort of dressed up where he's wearing like some hiking gear or maybe some adventurers gear here. And
he looks like a Boy Scout.
He does. He looks a little bit like a Boy Scout. His little beanie there.
Yeah, I was just looking at that too. As my husband would say, I guess there's some song or whatever with Paul Rudd, that a teeny weeny beanie.
I was thinking about the same thing, yes. When Paul Rudd was on The Tonight Show, I think he did a song with Jimmy Fallon, Teeny Weeny Beanie. Yep. And that, unfortunately, is how we're going to end this episode.
You know what? Paul Rudd is always a good way to do anything. So, mentioning Paul Rudd.
But I think I'm going to have a moral to this episode, and that is going to be sometimes at first you don't succeed. Mm-hmm. And sometimes opening day is a disaster. And like I said, jokingly, like, Walt was there so stressed out and he was so angry. But this theme park ended up being the biggest success he ever had. So as much as people love Mickey Mouse as a character, I still think Walt Disney is now known more for the guy who created the theme parks than he is for the guy who created a mouse character. And absolutely. I think that's a big deal. I think that is saying, go try the thing.
Yeah.
Move across the country, Sarah.
Hey, we did it.
Every once in a while, you just have to take that leap. And maybe that's the story of Disneyland's Black Sunday, July 17th, 1955. Sarah, thank you so much for being back on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
In honor of the theme of today's episode about refusing to quit, even when the start seems disastrous, I want to tell everyone a short story about this podcast. Initially, I started this podcast with two guys who worked with me at my previous travel agency. We were working on that version of the podcast 5 years ago this month. We thought we would take the craziness of the pandemic to build up a storage of episodes before a launch in the late summer and early fall. We finally launched our first episode of that version on Walt Disney World's 49th birthday of October 1st, 2020. After 14 regular episodes and 13 bonus episodes, we were threatened with a lawsuit from a rival travel agency. One of the words in our previous title rhymed with one of the words in the name of their company. Yes, that was it. We were getting like 20 listens per episode, and this lawyer, who went to an embarrassing law school, by the way, kept threatening us. I didn't want issues for a silly podcast we were doing for fun, and I told him I'd work with him 100% to make sure his client was happy. Well, he wouldn't take yes for an answer. It became obvious that what he wanted to do was milk his client for money, because he just wanted to send as many legal documents as possible back and forth without resolving anything. Our first attempt at a podcast was so awful that I was almost taken to court. I deleted all of the old episodes. I emailed the lawyer. He couldn't sue for something that didn't exist anymore. And then I DM'd two casual acquaintances from Diz Twitter. I'd met Maz in the parks once, and I knew that she visited Walt Disney World a few times per year. I hadn't met Sarah yet, but I knew that she frequented Disneyland and that she had a child. These seemed like two unique perspectives on the parks, and they agreed to be my regular co-hosts on a new podcast. We now have been doing Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty for almost 4.5 years. We've raised money for the Boys and Girls Club of Central Florida, a domestic violence shelter in Pinellas County, Florida, and we gave other platforms a chance to promote their fundraisers for the LGBTQ plus community. Sarah and Maz have gone on to become two of my favorite people in the world. We have shared positivity and inclusion, and all of that because I didn't quit when things got hard. I know it probably really makes that lawyer mad. I mean, he spent a lot of his daddy's money to make sure that he could get both a law degree and a wicked tan at the same time. But we're still out here doing the right thing, and he tried to stop it. So I'm sure that makes him feel really, really tough. Do me a favor, reward our perseverance by subscribing to the Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty YouTube channel. If you already are subscribed, go through some of the videos and podcasts on the page and like them. Heck, even comment with a time that you tried something new and it started off looking like a mess, but you stuck with it. That would really be the type of positivity I think we could all use right now. Subscribing, commenting, and liking are all 100% free and would help us greatly as we try to grow this channel and as I work on some other projects that I think will be really impressive. This has been episode 233 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. We will be back next Thursday with another brand new episode of the show. Until then, have a great week.